Okay, we have looked at undue dependence on clients. Also, overdue fees. The existence of a significant overdue fees from a client or group of associated clients can be threatening or appear to be threatening to objectivity into that of the loan. Firm must therefore ensure that overdue fees, along with fees from current work, could not be construed as loan. Actual or threatening litigations. A firm objectivity may be threatened or appears to be threatening when it is involved in or even threatened with litigation in relation to a client. And this is when a client is already putting you, threatening you, if you don't do this, I will take you to court. So auditor must, as much as possible, avoid anything that could bring such between him and the client. Now, associated firm, influence outside the practice. A firm objectivity may be threatened or appear to be threatening as a result of pressure arising from associated practice or organization or from other external sources, such as bankers, solicitors, government, and those introducing business. The problem of dependence in relation or to a large or prestigious client may arise in connection with the activities of associated practice or organization of the client. Factors to be considered by this firm include the closeness of the association and the strength of the associate interest in firm retaining the client. What I'm saying is that if you have so big clients that I can't do without these ones, if these clients do not allow me to work for them again, there's a problem to my firm, to my business. When they see that, they will take advantage of you. So that officer cannot be objective. He will be biased because he will think about the benefit he's going to lose, which ought not to be. So families and other personal relationship. Auditors of deceiving may be threatened or appear to be threatened as a result of families or other close personnel or business relationship. Problem arise if an officer or senior employee of an audit client is closely connected with the partner or senior staff members responsible for the conduct of the audit. In this context, close connected persons include auditors' children and their spouse, siblings and their spouse, or any relative to whom regular financial assistance is given or whom is indebted to the staff members or partners. Chronicity needs to be taken into account, including whether the partner or the staff members is involved in the audit or the position of the person is in client's office, in brackets, to whom the junior or the less is risk. What I'm talking about, when either you have your family members, spouse, relative in such a company, if care is not taken, you would try to compromise your standard, and which might not be in the best interest of the profession. And just like I said, all these things we must, as a matter of duty, take them to heart. And as we take them to heart, it will be able to help us in the course of this audit work. Now, I want to look at procedures of audit appointments. Introduction. After knowing who qualifies to be an auditor, his rights and responsibility, and what the professional requirements requires of him as to skill, competence, integrity, and independence, it is appropriate that we start looking at the procedure of appointing external auditors. Let's look at precondition. What do we need to do? Prior to acceptance of an offer of appointment, the auditor must ensure that the principle of integrity, objectivity, independence, and other ethical requirements are not compromised. In addition, new auditors should ensure that they have been appointed in a proper manner, with particularly reference to taking over from a retiring auditor. The next thing we need to know, the ethical consideration. What are these ethical considerations that we need to look at? A, if the fees from this appointment would exceed 15% of the gross fees of practice, in bracket, other than the new practice, then the appointment should not be accepted. B, any personal relationship with an officer or employee of the company will be considered unethical. That is, any financial involvement with the company, such as a shareholder or a loan to or from the company, will also be regarded as unethical. That is, if you have had any loan with them before, it is unethical for you to take such a job. What are the legal considerations you need to look at before you take any job as auditor? The company code prohibits that officer or servant of the company or partner or employee of the company of an employee of an officer or servant of the company from accepting the position of auditors to the company. The auditor must be a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria or other professional accountancy body recognized by the law, and must not have been disqualified by any status. Practical consideration. The auditor must ensure that the firm's existing resources, in brackets, materials, manpower, equipment, etc., close the brackets, are adequate to serve the need of the client. This raises a question of staffing and time availability and technical expertise. That is, it may be impossible for an appointment to be accepted because the auditing firm is not sufficiently large, in brackets, in terms of staffing and logistics, close the brackets, to audit the client's company, or is heavily engaged in other audits at the time the client will have need his audits to be carried out. Also, the firm might not have necessary expertise, for example, in computing, etc., to provide its accessory services to the client. The auditor may also consider the level of audit fees vis-a-vis the risks associated with the engagement. Full stop. The auditor must decline to accept the offer for if the fees cannot match with the associated risk. These are the things that practically that auditor must look at. If he knows that his staff are not competent enough to take the job, probably at the point they are calling to come and take that job, he has another major job that is taking his time. He doesn't need to accept the job because that will put him at risk. Now, we want to look at seeking reference about the client. It is important that the auditors obtain knowledge of the client business sufficiently enough to enable them identify or appreciate issues that impact on the business of the client. Independent inquiry should be made concerning the status of the company. That is, before taking any job, you must seek reference. Ask questions about that company. The knowledge cover areas such as general economic factor. B, industrial condition affecting the client business. C, the entity itself, covering such aspects as composition of the board of directors, management's profile, etc. The entity products, markets, supplies, and expenses and operation. The entity financial performance and conditions. Finally, the reporting environment. All these things must be put into consideration. And finally, for today's class, source of information about new clients include the following: previous auditor, you must ask them. Confidential inquiry from prospective clients, e.g. bank, solicitor, and underwriters or registrars. Prior year financial statement, professional rules, regulations, and standards, specific rules and regulating pertaining to the auditors, to the industry, the regulations of clients' company, and finally directorates of incorporate companies. All these things we must, before taking any job, must have this source as back of our mind to be able to enable us to take the job. So here we are going to end the class today, and when next we are going to start with communicating with the present auditor. That will be in our next class. Thank you for listening today.